Good evening. This is the regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners, St. Charles Parish Housing Authority, Tuesday, July 31st, 2018. The time is now 6 p.m. Call the meeting to order. We'll all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, at this time, we'll now take roll call beginning on my right.
Beatrice Hollis. Beatrice Hollis.
Webb J. Chairperson.
Commissioner Bailey.
Commissioner Rodney Woods.
And also in attendance this evening is we have members of the public and Russell Ricotta, the fee accountant, and Lieutenant Oob with the Sheriff's Department. At this time, we'll review of minutes from the 6/26 meeting. Any board discussion? I had one note on it. On the last page, on the call for a motion to adjourn the meeting, that was done by Commissioner Woods, seconded by Commissioner Bailey. We have the ayes. It was unanimous, but we mentioned Commissioner Champagne. She was not present. And
Okay.
she has since moved and is no longer on the board. So if there's no further discussion, do we have a motion with an amendment?
Mr. Chair, I move to accept the minutes as presented with the amendment to remove the name change of Commissioner Champagne.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Woods, seconded by Commissioner Bailey. All in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries. All right. And the next agenda item is the Sheriff's Department's report.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Since the last meeting, we have had 68 hours approximate of patrol time. We haven't had any major incidents in any of the projects, housing projects. Did have one this morning that I'll bring up. We had it was a call from anonymous resident to two male subjects breaking into, or what they believe breaking into, an apartment in Hornville. We made contact with the two subjects in the apartment, and it was supposed to be their uncle's. It's my uncle's house, uncle's apartment. We did verify that the person that they're telling us the uncle was the registered or was the homeowner there, and but we weren't able to make contact with him. So we've got everybody's information. If that comes back and it's not the case, we're going to come back after and file charges on them, for like breaking into the house. They weren't doing anything. They were there sleeping, or just in the house. Weren't stealing anything at the time. So we do have them. So that possibly could turn into something other than if it's not the uncle, or if they're not being legit about it. We have that, and of course we still with the four-wheelers and that, which kind of that time of the year. Hopefully with school coming back, that usually kind of slacks off for us too. So which the four-wheeler calls and things have also kind of tapered off a bit. We're still still running around. They're still out and about, but so hopefully school coming around, that kind of fixes a lot of those problems, because everybody's at school. Kids are in school. So, and that's, like I said, that's the only thing that we've had really of any substance through this last time period.
All right. Any board discussion, any questions?
No, sir.
Ms. Hollis, do you have anything?
No, I don't.
All right. And
Thank you.
guys, and I'll let you guys know, like I said, if this does come to something, at the next meeting or something, if we, how that transpired with this one in Hornville.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you
Thanks.
guys.
Thank you,
Can
sir.
I exchange cards with you?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. And what I'll do is, I don't have any on me, so what I'll do is when I work
All right, the next agenda item is the review of the low rent and HCVP expense reports for June 2018. Any board discussion?
Well, I guess my first thing would be, Mr. Ricotta, on these reports, and this is one we're talking about now, is there anything that you'd like to tell us? Any trends that you notice or something that needs to be brought to our attention?
Also, please make sure your microphone's on. It should be green. There it is.
Okay. Yes, looking at the low rent program first. For the 9 months ended, we have operating revenues of about $720,000, which represents about 22%. I'm sorry, about 78% of the budget amount of $930,000. That's found on, that's a little short one. A little short one. The way the budget versus actual set up, the last percentage, the last column is what's remaining. That's 25%. So if you look at that, we're pretty much on, on target. 22.62% of the revenue is left remaining. And for the 9 months, we have 25% is what it should be for the 9 months ending June. Total expenses, generally speaking, we do have some overages and extraordinary expenses, and that's compared to the budget. Contract plumbing for the 9 months was like $18,206 compared to the budget of $3,800.
Just for my clarity, he's on page 2 when he talks about
Yes.
contract plumbing.
And even before that, on page 1, legal expense, we had budgeted $1,500, and so far we have spent $12,996. Relocation costs is another item. We did not budget anything, but because of some situations where we had to remove some tenants out of the apartments, we spent about $1,272.
Mr. Ricotta, let me stop you.
Yes.
I remember sometime, and I don't remember when it was, early last year,
Mm-hmm.
discussing the cost of the attorney.
Mm-hmm.
And the cost of the attorney was working out where we had actually budgeted $1,500 per month.
Okay.
And I think somewhere in the process of that, it became the year-ending budget. But it should be closer to $1,500 a month.
Well, okay.
So,
That's what I had on the budget.
and I could be even wrong about the number.
Okay.
The number may have been a little higher than that, but this number is certainly a per month
That's what I
fee
kinda,
because
yeah.
we've got to have an attorney, and
Oh, yeah,
there's a lot of
that's-
things that come up that we need an
I
attorney
mean,
for.
when I
so.
saw that, actually, when we
That's gonna get into
did the
discussion.
budget, I was really kind of surprised.
This number.
So,
That's some of the itemized.
let's look at that and see if if we needed to do a line item change or something for that.
I had talked with Ms. Hollis,
That's what I'm gonna ask.
and we have several revisions
only a
that need to
portion.
be made.
Yes, we're
For
gonna,
the-
we're gonna do revisions.
A
And we
revision.
still have to prepare
Yes.
Okay.
2018
Definitely,
budget.
yes.
Other than the plumbing, what else is the part of this extraordinary expenses?
Extraordinary maintenance. There was a lot of work, modernization work done for apartments 226 and 238. We spent for the 9 months, and that's on page 3, $47,600. Now,
For what, so, for those two apartments, what, we spent 47?
and other. I have the breakdown
what-
right
What
here.
did
So
you
wait.
say the two apartment numbers were?
226 and
226 and
238.
238, yes.
And those two apartments alone are all the apartments that need to go through mine.
Next one,
Was it
page
47,000?
14, there's some kind of explanation.
Ms. Hollis, let me
On
ask
page-
you real quick. Of those two apartments, what is the status of them at current?
They're both occupied, however, we still have work that needs to be done to them.
On page 14 is a little further explanation.
Most of that, let me just kind of, excuse me, pardon me. Irons Construction was actually all the expenses that are in that account. Let's see, apartment, that's why I put apartment 226, 238, and other. One payment was for 226 and 238. Here's another one for apartment 60. But everything else, for apartment 60, it was 3549, but everything else relates to those two apartments.
Let's see, and we still have work to do.
It's, yeah, yes,
Ms.
yes,
Hollis,
sir.
you want to elaborate on that?
Well, it's, there's work that needs to be done to bring them up to code. The work, I'm not sure, I think that the cost might have been a little high for the work that was done, because I was surprised to see this, the state of the units, once I saw the amount that we spent. I think, the only thing I could say is that, a lack of experience in construction, maybe. You know, you're getting bids, you have to be able to at least quantify the cost. There should have been a cost certification on the work that was done.
On another, a question thinking on that, I see you said it went all to Mr. the Irons Construction. What is our vendor list as far as people who do that? And I remember a gentleman that came in one night and sat here and didn't get the opportunity to speak for whatever reasons. I mean, what is our vendor list? It looks like that we have one person doing all the work for us right now.
That's in the past. I've had conversation with HUD. We have 3 units total, a total of 3 units that's on the mod program out of the 10 that we need to make ready. I've had a conversation with HUD, and I think that we want to try another approach. HUD is going to allow us to do what's called a force account. And we will be able to do it in-house, provided we bring on an expert in construction management. I think that's gonna work for us based on the limits that we have with our budget and based on the amount of work that we have to do in totality with all 3 developments. What that does is allow us to procure the supplies and allow our in-house maintenance. They've allowed us to have 1 maintenance more, which is a good thing for us. So we'll be able to do it in-house. And I want to give an example. We have a unit 217 on my first day. 217 was ready to be occupied. The condition of it, I think, was not up to standard or to code. So we started from scratch. The material to bring it up to code cost us less than $1,500. We've done a partnership with Home Depot that's giving us bid prices. And we want to take a different approach. We save a lot of money if we don't use the vendors. All of the properties is structurally sound. It's more cosmetic and aesthetics. The material that we use, and we need to use a better grade of material. We'll have a better product.
Okay. So I'm understanding we're gonna get away from vendors and have a consultant. Is there the list of consultants or how?
We're gonna have to do a notice. We will do a notice, and we will go out and request for bids. And not necessarily a consultant, it can be an individual, which I think would be more up our alley. Dealing with one person opposed to dealing with a firm.
So HUD's allowing us to, so we're gonna have, so we got how many maintenance people on our staff?
4.
And they're gonna allow us to get another one?
No.
Let
A
me
construction
clarify,
manager.
let me clarify.
gonna
So
be
I was
there
in the
too.
meeting with HUD when all this came up. So, they did discuss the force account. We also discussed, the cost that we've been spending for construction. And so in the course of that conversation, we said, well, if we could get our maintenance people, up to par, where they could actually do it on site, where we didn't have to hire out a lot of what we've been hiring out, was that possible? And essentially, after a lot of discussion, basically what they said is, that's fine. What you have to do is have, and you can correct me if I'm wrong.
A construction
A
manager
a
oversight.
construction manager, someone like a general contractor that would be, more of a
Oversight management.
oversight that could sign off on the work with that knowledge, with that license. And you would basically pay them a flat amount each month to be able to do that, and the maintenance people could then do the work. So we're not having these extraordinary bills come up. It would just be the standard operating procedure every month. It's on site, it gets done. We're already paying the maintenance people. We've already had the 4 maintenance staff. So the idea was, let's get them well-trained, and the new construction supervisor could do that. And it would fall well below the threshold of what we've been spending out thus far, to hire outside labor on top of having the maintenance people.
Well, let's take a journey back down memory lane. So the maintenance staff and the scores that we have been getting have been in trouble for a while.
Right.
So there have been many recommendations made. One of the recommendations was that we need, which I agree with, that get somebody to, I guess, get our maintenance staff up to speed or whatever to come on board. HUD has said that, or not necessarily said it, but they hinted that we have, that is one of the biggest issues, is the maintenance staff, because they're not turning the units around quick enough, and we have to get outside help. For a very long time, we've been trying to get that, the guys that we have, we've been trying to get those guys to get on a certain level. But then HUD, when we met with them, they hit us with, we're supposed to have 1 maintenance staff for how many units?
50.
50.
We did
where
get
are we at right
approval,
now?
we got approval to keep the 4 maintenance staffs because of the condition of our units.
Okay.
We still have to address administrative costs. We do have, some ideas now.
That
in
brings
play
up
for
another
that.
question. Do we have the funds to be able to afford somebody to bring them on? With our 4 people, can we bring on somebody else to manage these 4 people? Or do you think we should maybe pursue options on finding people that more or less more competent to handle the work?
Well, this is gonna be a process to address, but we do believe there's a plan in place where, with the funding that we currently have, we can actually reduce our administrative cost, hire someone to supervise the maintenance, and also address some of the
Because,
other issues
just
that
want to
you're
be clear, in
discussing.
my mind, what I'm seeing is just, it's almost as if we're hiring another person that we have to pay for to do maintenance work, when we already have people that should be doing the maintenance work, that we've been trying to do the maintenance work.
It would essentially be
for
an
very-
on-site person that's training them and getting them up to speed.
I just don't want another person eating up more of the money that we don't
So
have.
here is the issue. What we have done in the past is that we've went out and solicited bids from contractors. Those contractors come back at us with cost that exceeds $20,000 per unit, which is ridiculous in my opinion.
No, it's very ridiculous.
So with that being said, we have to deal with what one of the problems was. It wasn't just, it was in fact a lack of capacity, and it was also management. You know, not only did the maintenance crew not have the capacity to do the work that needed to be done, it wasn't being addressed. So with that being said, when I first walked through the units, I'm like, we need to start all over from scratch with maintenance. But after digging a little deeper, I understood that it was also a lack of resource in them having the proper training. So,
But we've already exhausted the training. Pretty sure we sent a few of those guys to some form
Well,
of
they
DV
don't need
training.
that. The training that they've gone through, I've gone through the record. They go to Marksville and to various different places and sit in a classroom. That's not what they need. That wasn't going to solve the problem. If they're not capable of painting, in a professional manner. Sit in the classroom is not gonna help them. They need it practical. They need a
Understand.
practical training. So
Alright.
with that being said, the work that needs to be done, some things maintenance can't do. We cannot substitute using licensed trades, like they can't do electrical, they can't do plumbing. We will have to go out and bid. The other work is aesthetics. You know, they need to know how to paint. They need to know how to do a patch. If they're replacing a hole in the drywall, that is their responsibility. That's their job. The problem is that they've done a poor job with it, and it's because they weren't trained properly. And over years, it was allowed to exist like that.
All right, well, I'm gonna let you run, but my only suggestion is you can't fix a broken record.
No, you
Much as you
can't.
wanna try. So if some changes need to be done, then we need to do those changes to our maintenance crew.
Mhm.
If you feel that the training is gonna get it done and it won't eat up the cost, then we can move forward with it. But don't
Okay.
fix a broken record,
Got you.
because it will skip.
And I did hear the word plan as far what the plan is to bring this person on and how he's gonna address things. I'd like to see what your vision is for, not that I need it this evening, but what your vision is for what this person is going to accomplish. How is he going to assess what we need, and then what's the vision for carrying out those things?
It's the same process. It's just that we would not have to pay the overhead that we would have to pay a construction company opposed to paying a construction manager.
Okay.
Same process, but it's a work that has to be put in. There's some work to be done.
So, I know, Ms. Hollis, just in looking at her executive director's report, she's gonna address some of these things. So what I'd like to do is focus on,
Yes, gotcha.
on the-
And that's
on
exactly
the
how I was going
agenda.
right
So-
back to Mr.
so we're
Ricardo
still reviewing
Low rent.
expense reports
for low rent.
for low rent.
Mr. Ricardo,
Yes, sir.
in our non-current assets, construction and
The low rent?
low rent, yes, sir. Construction and process, you have $150,000. What's those number relate to? How is that an asset for us, and what did we do? What's that number?
That relates to, some work that had been done and wasn't completed as of last fiscal year, September 30th, 2017. And, when it's complete, which it'll be done, I'm sure it's done this year, I don't have that exact number, of what, it relates to as far as each unit. But those are units that were still not complete at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's see.
So my next question was gonna ask you, where do I go in here and find an explanation for those numbers?
That would probably be for last fiscal year, which I don't have. I didn't
Okay,
bring that
then
with me.
we can possibly get that.
I will.
Moving on, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I know we've asked this question several times. We see where we say, as a liability, due to housing choice voucher program, we have a number of 17,155. Where in this report do we find an explanation of what those numbers are? How did you get to 17,155?
If you look in the general ledger, and you look on page,
I looked, I didn't see it.
it's on page 7. That's a breakdown of what is actually due to the housing choice voucher program.
Which number on page 7?
Okay, account number 3470, kind of like about a third of the way down, due to housing choice voucher.
Due from HCV.
You see?
Being due from HCV.
Page 7 of, you looking at the low rent or the section 8?
Low
housing
rent,
choice?
sir. Low rent, I'm looking at low rent. Yeah.
And it's account number 3470,
470. Yes,
and it's due to housing choice voucher?
okay, got you there.
Okay. And those are the disbursements that were made that related to transactions between the Section 8 program or Housing Choice Voucher Program and low rent.
Does any of this, I'm looking at wages, does any of that relate to any actual work, physical work that people did? I see transfers between housing and retirement trusts and.
Yes, those,
and all, I mean,
this is the low rent program pays, like for instance, Blue Cross Blue Shield, they'll pay the total amount of the insurance, and it has to be recouped from the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program. So that's how this is set up, as a basically monies that we got to recoup from the Housing Choice. So if you look at the Housing Choice Program, you can see where it's owed, you know. It's a due
is there a
from.
reason why one is paying for the other?
We basically
Is it
have,
two
so
separate things?
one is keeping another one alive. Technically, that's pretty much what it boils down to.
Well, you have to segregate, you know, like for instance, just on the Blue Cross Blue Shield, you paying out of the low rent program. So,
Taking money from our low rent program and putting it to our Section 8.
and we have to recoup there are like there's an allocation that, that relates to the employees on, let's say, Blue Cross, okay? So we have to, the allocation that relates to the employee that works in the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program, that's got to be reimbursed back to the low rent program, because it's not an expense. It's an expense
So
of
each
the
program-
housing choice.
I thought each program was supposed to operate independently and separately without needing to have funds from another program. So technically what I'm saying is we shouldn't be taking money from one, putting it into another.
In general practice, when you have a situation like this where you don't have like a checking account that's like a clearing account in which you would actually pay one, you would pay like the Blue Cross premium, and then you would then get the funds separately from the low rent program and the Housing Choice Voucher Program to reimburse that, and then in turn those two checks would actually show what the expenses were for the low rent and for the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher
But
Program.
the employees for Section 8 should be under the Section 8 operating expenses, right?
And they are,
And the employees for low rent,
right, and they are,
under the low rent operating expenses,
Mhm.
right?
right.
But you're saying that we're taking, somehow the insurance is getting mixed up in it to where we
No,
gotta pay
sir.
insurance for it.
No. What happens, we write one check to Blue Cross, okay, and it's broken out between all the employees. Some employees have a 50-50 allocation. They work 50% of the time for low rent, 50% for housing choice. Since it's paid out of the low rent program, we have to get the part that relates to the housing choice vouchers, we have to get that back from housing choice, okay, because it was one check that was written, okay, out of the low rent program. So you set it up to get the money back from housing choice, and then, you know, the expenses are recorded properly. It's just that it's all written, most of the expenses are written out the low rent program.
You might say it's properly, but it makes it harder for us to follow.
Yeah.
That's
Well, why does it have to be that way? Why?
I need to cut you off for just a second. I want to make a note that at 6:25, Marilyn Bellick, our councilwoman ex officio, did enter the meeting. So.
Okay. There are other ways to do it, and that was brought up.
But I would, my personal preference would be not to, I would rather do it a way to we don't have to see one
Okay.
program paying for another program. Because I don't think that's right. I don't think that's the way it should be.
As long as we get reimbursed, like within a very short period of time, which is we try to do within a month, you know, the very next, it's usually not a problem.
All right, I think the board hears what you're saying, and what we're saying is we don't want to see that. So we need to figure out a solution.
And I have
moving forward.
several
Can
different
I
options I could
interject?
discuss with Ms.
Please.
Hollins.
Can I interject? There is, I am responsible for the budget.
I hadn't gotten to you yet.
For, don't be too hard on me. I just got here. I'm also responsible for how the programs operate and how the allocation occur
Mhm.
based on the allocations we're getting in, the proceeds per program. I've already had conversation with with Russell, and we are going to revamp the entire way
Mm-hmm.
that the accounting is done, because in my opinion, and I know, not opinion, I know that the accounting should be done in-house. It has been a culture at the Housing Authority, apparently, where accounting was done outside. And in my very first meeting with Russell, you know, I've already stated it, I've stated it to the chairman, it has to happen in-house. And as it relates to the employees and time allocation, has to be done the way that you guys are saying that it's gonna be done. So when we go into executive session, one of the things I wanna talk about is that transitioning, because it
Okay.
has to happen immediately.
Okay.
I don't know if I fully agree with the in-house,
Mm-hmm.
because I do like the idea of an independent agency.
As a monitor, as a consultant,
Well, we need check and balance.
correct,
You have everything in-house, you got
correct,
federal dollars, in-house people hands on it. I want somebody I can ask questions to,
correct,
who I expect to give me the full, honest, independent
correct,
consultant truth.
correct. All of that,
We
all
can
that's
discuss that in
correct,
executive session.
yes.
But there's certainly different ways to do it. It's just that's the way that I was told to do it.
You can ask. Your mic on? The councilwoman has a question.
Yes, Mr. Russell, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Who instructed you to do it this way?
I'm talking with Mr. Bell and with Leela Jackson, giving them alternatives and different ways to do it. And one of the ways, the best ways to do is to actually have like a third checking account, and then you could write disbursement, write checks out of that account that relates to both. You have one check, and then, you know, before that check gets sent out, then you'll get reimbursed separately from each individual program. And then those checks that are written to reimburse for that is basically like a zero-based account. That would be for payroll, for anything that has both expenditures for, you know, like the insurances and things of that nature. And then you wouldn't have any due to or due from. You know, it would basically get processed when the check gets, when you reimburse that clearing account. You follow what I'm saying? You have one check for Blue Cross, let's say it's $5,000, low rent owes $25, housing choice owes $25. You go ahead, before you send that check out, you go ahead and deposit those funds into that one account, and it,
That's how my business is set up. I have a disbursement
that's what I had
account
wanted
that-
to do.
So I have an operating account, and I have a disbursement account.
You have an escrow account, I'm
And
sure.
I have an escrow
That's right.
account, and trust account,
Yes.
multiple accounts.
It's,
But
and you know,
you pay from your income through that disbursement account to whatever other accounts or agencies or whatever need to be paid.
and that's what I had wanted to do. But it wasn't decided that way. So,
Just kind of moving on, if we could, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
And this is a small number that I'm going to talk about, but I tend to just choose any number out of this report, and I try to just follow the logic of what I'm seeing on the paper.
Okay.
And if page low rent still,
Okay.
I think the numbering was off, but it says page 1 of cleared checks and payments.
Where are we at?
Page one.
On the
Okay.
general ledger or?
I'm looking.
This is right behind.
Housing Authority Bank Account Reconciliation Worksheet.
Yes.
Again, just pick a number. I see where, 529, we wrote a check to Miss Jackson for $40. And, whatever, not a question what it's before, but it says, okay, you put it in account number or came from account number 9182.
Yes. Mhm.
Then I go to 9182, which is on page 10,
Okay.
and I
it's
don't
not
see that
there,
listed at all.
because that relates to a check that was written in May. Okay. This listing right here is a listing of checks that cleared the bank as of June 30th. So that as of the end of May, that $40 check was still outstanding, but in June it cleared. So that's strictly all this is. It's just letting you know.
Okay, 'cause
Yeah.
I saw that
Yeah.
at least one or two more times in there, just wondering what was
See,
happening.
everything, and that report, and I don't have to send that report, but it was a new report that the system generated, and I thought it was interesting. You know, kind of gives you an idea of what cleared the bank.
And just one last thing,
Sure,
Mr. Chair, I'm
sure.
gonna move on, cause I could pick this thing to death. Next, still looking at the general ledger,
Uh,
page 11.
Page 11 on the general ledger?
Yeah, and I just
Okay.
want to make a comment that as I went through the Section 8 stuff, it talks about
Oh, we're on
90,
low rent or section 8?
I'm in low rent,
Okay,
and it's 9410,
9410.
and it's just me being my crazy self. But at one, in the Section 8, you had names of who those salaries went to, and,
Yes.
and low rent, you didn't have that. And I was just trying to get a vision of what people were making every month, to be honest with you, and it was kind of
And-
hard to track that.
And what I can do, the system, the payroll checks are written out of the low rent program, okay? The regular operating, account for the low rent program. So the way it comes across the general ledger from the low rent program, it'll just show salary, and the amount, okay? The gross amount. Now, I can change that, starting with next month if you like.
And whatever
Go ahead
makes
and
it,
have the name down there.
whatever makes
Yeah.
it easier for us to,
To-
sometimes
to
I read
touch
this
it.
at 2 in the morning and I get lost and you're not there for me to ask that
Okay.
question to.
I was gonna say, I'll give you my cell, don't call me at 2 in the morning. But then on the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher side, what happens is that when I record the transfer from Section 8 to low rent, it's actually the check. It's got the name of the individual.
Gotcha. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'm gonna just rest my questions with the caveat that we're gonna do a session where we're gonna bang some things around as far as
Okay.
process and reporting.
Okay.
All right.
All right, any further discussion on low rent? All right, seeing none, do we have a motion
Are we still
to
voting on
receive
this?
low rent into the record?
Mr. Chair, I move that we receive low rent into the record as presented.
Second.
All right, a motion made by Commissioner Woods, second made by Commissioner Bailey, all in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries. HCVP expense report. Any board discussion there?
No, sir. So with that,
All right, with that, do we have a motion to receive that into the record?
I motion to receive the Section 8 expense report.
I have a motion made by Commissioner
Second.
Bailey, second by Commissioner Woods, all in favor?
aye.
And that motion carries.
And before we move on, Russell, I do have one simple request,
Yes, sir.
just to get an idea of the bigger picture.
Mhm.
Would it be possible to send us the bank statements?
Sure.
Just
You want the
whenever-
copy check, just like the first 4 pages. Not all the copies of the checks. Or you could, I could do them all, it doesn't matter. Whichever you want.
Everything.
Yes, sir.
All right, next agenda item is for board review, the VMS report, voucher management system. Do we want to start with you, Ms. Hollis, or on this, or Russell?
We'll start with Russell.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry.
We're in the VMS.
Okay, VMS.
Mhm.
Okay. Did you want me to kind of briefly go over it,
Yeah.
or, okay?
Just give us kind of a rundown, and then, after you do that, then, we'll see if there's any questions or
Okay.
anything from the board.
Looking at the VMS report, basically, this is a snapshot that HUD requires us to give of uh, the, um, the housing assistance payments and the administrative expenses as it relates to the Housing Choice Voucher Program. All these, if you look at page 1 of 11, all these different, like rental assistance component, you go down litigation, home ownership, you go down like family unification, those are all different types of vouchers that fall under the umbrella of the Housing Choice Voucher Program. Okay, we only have 3, really 2, and then an additional one, and I'm gonna get to that. Okay, the first thing that we have on page 1 is portable vouchers paid, that's port outs. We have 3 vouchers that are in that category, and if you go, the UML is a unit months leased, that's the name of the column, and then you go about halfway, maybe, 2/3 of the way over, the next column is HAP, and that's how much we spent for housing assisted payments that relate to port outs. Okay, 1647. Okay, going to page 2. We do not have, again, those are different categories, tenant protection, enhanced vouchers. We don't have the VASH program. The next category we have is a carryover from DHAP Ike. It's DHAP to Housing Choice Vouchers leased. We have
Down
12.
DHAP for me.
Ma'am, sir, I'm sorry.
Break down DHAP for me, it's just not,
Disaster housing assistance payments.
thank you.
And it's from the Ike program. And before that, we had the Katrina program.
Gotcha.
So these people.
Mr. Riccott, one question.
Yes, sir.
Quickly. We currently don't have any on the VASH voucher program?
No, we have one port in, which means that we don't own that voucher. The VASH program.
I remember leasing to a client that was on VASH, so.
But it's Kenner's. It's
Okay.
Kenner's,
Okay.
and we don't own it because we
All
don't
right.
have the VASH
I
program.
just,
Yes,
Excuse me,
Yes,
St. Charles
yes.
Parish doesn't have the VASH program at
No.
all?
not at all. We could apply for it,
But we do have, military vets.
No, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that need housing, yeah.
We currently have one, and that's a little bit further down. We have one VASH client that we are administering, but the voucher doesn't relate to us. Does it in ours? It belongs to Kenneth. Okay, and we have to keep track of it, but we don't get paid fully for the administration of it. We get 80% of the 100% that you get.
All right.
Okay. So we have 12 DHAP to Housing Choice vouchers, 12 vouchers, and the HAP amount was $65.46. And all other vouchers, and that's everything else. The majority of the housing authorities, most of their housing choice vouchers are in that all other. It's just like a catch-all. If it's not one of these, it goes into all other. So we have 262 that we leased, and then the total HAP cost was $146,844. Okay, moving on down, the next line item is all voucher HAP expenses after the first. And you could see, they don't keep track of the voucher numbers, but you keep track of the HAP expense. We have $1,001. What this VMS report is a snapshot of how the expenses were derived as of the first of the month. Okay, but HUD wants us to keep track of everything after the first of the month. So there were HAP expenses that were paid after the first of the month for $1,001. Okay, this gets kind of confusing. Total vouchers. Total vouchers shows 265 and then 149,492. Total vouchers does not include DHAP to Housing Choice vouchers. It only includes everything else. And the reason being is that the DHAP to Housing Choice vouchers, once that person is off that particular voucher, then it's just reduced. It's just, it'll go down, by one, or let's say, or how many ever leave the, that particular category, if you want to call it. HUD needs to still keep track of it, and they're not adding it to our baseline. So therefore, they're not including it in the total vouchers. It's kind of confusing. I don't think it should be there, but that's how they keep track of it every month. Okay, other voucher reporting requirements. HUD wants to know, as of the end of the month, how many vouchers are under lease. So we had, as of the end of the month, as of June 30th, 270. Another major component is new vouchers issued but not under HAP contracts as of the last day of the month. That means that how many vouchers have we issued to potential tenants that have not signed a lease yet as of the end of the month? Okay, so we had 9, and the term for that is called shopping. So we have 19 that are shopping, that have a voucher in hand, but they don't have a landlord yet. They're looking.
Just a quick question to see
Yes,
how
sir.
we're progressing. Do we have anything in here that shows the amount of vouchers year to date? Like, meaning like what we from last year to now, what's the increase in numbers? Where we were at last year? Is there any way
It's
that
not
we-
on this report.
Okay, is there any way
No.
we can figure it
Yes,
out, or do we
mhm.
know?
Mm-hmm. I don't have.
But I would like to know, because see how healthy our Section 8
Okay.
program is.
I know what it is for the 12 months 17 and for the 9 months 18, but I don't have, I could get that though. I could compare it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Please send it over.
Okay. Let's see. Compare. Lease up schedule. Okay. The last thing on that page is the portable vouchers administered, or called port-ins. That's that one voucher I was telling you about that doesn't belong to us, that we have to report to HUD that it belongs to. They don't ask who it's belongs to, but we just have to report that it's, we're paying the landlord, but we got to get reimbursed from the housing authority. And that one's Kenner. Okay, the next page, page 3 of 11. There's only 2 other things that we need to go over. The number of hard house families leased. That's 2. Hard house families are people that are usually, basically what it says. If you have like a family that might eat 4 bedrooms, or someone that has some other issues. Okay, HUD used to pay $75 for each hard-to-house family based on the criteria that they had. They would pay $75, be like in this case, it'd be $150 to help you with the administrative costs, but they don't do that anymore. But they still require us to keep track of it. Okay. The next one is non-moving to work admin expenses. There's a different type of program that falls under the Housing Choice Voucher umbrella called Moving to Work. Okay, it's something that's granted to just a few select housing authorities in the country, to be honest with you, and they're not nearly as monitored as much as other housing authorities. So this is where we would put everybody else who doesn't have moving to work. Okay, now when I reported this, it was the amount was $19,534, but it has since then been changed. The amount actually is $14,492 expenses. So the thing about VMS, HUD, whenever we have a change, any change whatsoever, they want us to go back immediately and go ahead and make the change. So I've already reported that in VMS. Okay. Page 4. The last 3 things, unrestricted net position as of the last day of the month. Okay, that amount is a negative 181,034. That's the deficit that we have in the, for the administration of the program. But since I made that change to expenses, that it's down to 175,493. Okay, then the restricted net position, as of the last day of the month, that's how much is actually mandated to pay HAP. So as of the end of the month, end of June, we had $15,320 that is strictly restricted only to pay HAP costs, not admin. The other thing that they want to know is what are your cash and investments as of the last day of the month for the Housing Choice Voucher Program? And that amount was 0. And then everything else is basically, there's nothing else reported. The last page, page 10 and, and 11, just contact information.
All right,
What's
any-
the amount
any
of
board
vouchers?
discussion?
What's the amount of
Go ahead.
vouchers that we have available that we?
We have 373 is our baseline, and then you add to that the GHAP, the Housing Choice, which is 12, so we have available 385.
So is that in here also?
No.
Okay. So for reporting, I'd like to see how many we have, and just kind of a progression of how we.
I have it, I could send it to you, no problem.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
that's something that I have to
would-
keep track
Just for
of.
like board packet reasons, I'd like to see that in our packet.
Okay. I got it.
Any further board discussion at this time?
No, sir.
No, sir.
All right. Any discussion? All right.
No.
Seeing none, the next agenda item is, resolution 18-07-31A to approve the PHA's donation of obsolete electronics to Lord's House Community Church. So, Ms. Hollis, if you wanna kinda let everybody kinda know what we're trying to accomplish here.
We have a storage room which is full of old equipment, and HUD has a disposition program. We can't just throw it away, and some of it is still usable, especially if there's an agency out there that wants to do any type of training. So we want to donate it so that we can create space and start a filing system internally in our storage room.
How many do we? First off, what's the value of the property? What are we giving away?
It's
How's that should reflect on our financials? Have inventory and
From what I have been exposed to in the last 30 days, we do not have an inventory list. What we have started to do is we are now creating an inventory list and creating a disposition process for the inventory that we do have on site, because most of it does need to be disposed of. I would think, based on the age of it, it's been depreciated away as it relates to value.
Yes, and I do have values here, and it looks like most of them are depreciated. Yeah.
It's,
And
most of what she's talking about,
Computers,
from
yeah.
what I remember,
It's
is
computer monitors and old
the old
dinosaur
old stuff,
computers.
Yes.
I mean, from, 10, 15 years ago, so.
so this is stuff we absolutely.
2004, 2008.
So it's stuff that really is antiquated, it's not compatible with what we're doing now, and it's taking up a whole space, and part of the purpose was, I know, when Ms. Hollis first got in there, we wanted to create a file room, that would be separate from the rest of the agency, that could be kept under lock and key.
Right.
And so that's what we're trying to do, is create that space, but the only way we can do that is to clear up this collected equipment It's.
No, I mean, no, it's fine. I just wanna know, I wanna have an idea of what we're throwing away, cause we bought it before, so I don't want just to say, okay, let's just throw away things and not have a exact idea of what it is.
Which
that
is
we're
led
getting
me
rid of.
too, so the equipment that we have now, and I understand what you're saying, we're giving away is obsolete, but we're good as far as what we have in-house now is adequate for you to
We
run
need
the
to,
agency?
we need to update. We definitely need to update as it relates to the, yes, everything internally.
Updating as in you spend money on equipment.
We need computers. We need computers, and I think I could discuss it more in detail when we go into executive session. I can talk about it right now, however you choose to. But, the computers are extremely slow. The server is at capacity. We are not interacting with the Department of Housing and Urban Development Infrastructure. And we are making changes so that we can start doing that. But when we do that, we need to have computers that can communicate with them.
I have a question about that, about the items that we're talking about discarding. You think maybe we get pictures of all the items?
Absolutely.
Because you said you're not gonna throw them away, you said donate them?
We want to
or-
donate them to a local church. Yeah, we
Any
can,
particular reason behind
the church?
I just wanna know, like,
Absolutely not. We, was looking for somewhere, activity was occurring in the community with kids.
okay, good.
So the downside of that is you're telling us somewhere in the future we have to buy new equipment.
We shall always have to. We shall always have to. Technology changes so rapidly. But when we buy, we need to buy with the mindset of buying something where we can add capacity to it, which means the computers that we are going to buy will be something that it's going to be built for us to communicate with the systems and the software that we need to work via VMS systems. We need to start communicating with those.
We have, no, okay. You're saying you found that out in 30 days, and we gotta.
I've been busy.
I mean, I'm good with that, but and I want to go. We can't change anything in the past, but it's amazing that
It's amazing.
that 30 days into it, we need new computer systems.
Yeah.
Mr. Ricotta.
Yes, I just want to make sure that anything that we donate or dispose of, I need a listing.
We
I
have
need
a
to make
list.
sure that, the name.
All the serial
and
numbers.
Serial numbers and things, so I could take them off the,
That's my question.
fixed asset schedule. I just want to make sure.
Okay.
Not to beat this dead horse, but no idea what this might cost us, huh? No.
Actually, I know exactly how much it's gonna cost. It's gonna cost us $2,200.
Okay.
It's only the computer system, not the monitors, not the keyboard, not the mouse. But we
Looking
definitely,
at software more than anything, is that what you're
No.
saying? No.
I'm looking at processors
Process.
Looking at a
so that we
server.
can manipulate the software.
Okay, gotcha, okay.
Yeah,
gotcha,
it
yes,
takes
ma'am.
me 15 minutes to send an email next, in a room next door. That's how slow our servers are. We are at
Wow.
capacity.
So, I just want to be clarified, so we're getting a new server, but the
Not a new
computers.
server, just the computers.
Okay, so everybody in the office is gonna get,
Now, only the individuals that's responsible for reporting. Right now, we don't have anyone in staff that reports to HUD.
okay,
Most of it is being done by our fee accountant, and we should be doing it ourselves. So the individuals with the responsibility to do our reporting will get computers.
so the computers are gonna make the office environment more productive and things are gonna flow more efficiently so that we can,
It is definitely going to help us with compliance issues.
okay.
Yeah,
All money spent is important to understand why.
I
at this point.
understand. I understand.
Particularly when we don't have any.
All right, any further discussion on this, this resolution? All right,
Mr. Chair, motion?
yes,
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve this resolution 18-07-31A to donate the obsolete equipment to the above-named church.
all right, motion made,
A second.
We have a second by, Commissioner Bellick, and, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that motion carries. Great. All right, the next agenda item is resolution 18-07-31B to approve the Public Housing Authority's disposition of inoperable, obsolete, and unusable appliances as scrap. Ms. Hollis?
We have, what I would define as a graveyard behind the maintenance shed and garage of old appliances that not only creates safety hazards, there should be code issues as it relates to, refrigerators that don't work, but the doors are still on them. Stoves that don't work. But they're, instead of throwing them away or whatever the process would have been when they were discarded from the units, they would just store it on site. If we scrap them, we can actually, get a little fee for it. I would say maybe about $500 worth.
Well, this has been a problem for a while. I think the reasons comes back to not having inventory. We do need inventory of these things. And
We have inventoried. I've had this, serial numbers off of all of the units recorded, the brand. I don't know what dates they were acquired.
And are we sure that there are, see, we got in here that they don't work, that they're inoperable? Because, let me explain. Sometimes the maintenance guys think an inoperable appliance, which a knob might not work, that can possibly be fixed, is grounds for buying a brand new one.
But we're not doing that anymore.
Okay.
We're storing them.
Because again,
We're storing
money.
them in the shade. The ones that we're trying to discard are the ones that has been stored outside
okay,
behind the
okay.
shed.
So you're
Just
saying
wanna be
there's some
clear.
that's been out in the weather, really gotta go,
For
and you do
years.
have some that are in
It
proper
literally is
storage
like an
that have.
appliance graveyard.
It's-
They're
it's-
rusted
You
and
can see that it's
I've
been
never
there
walked
for
behind that
years.
garage yet, so I might,
And it's such a
A
beautiful
tour.
sight. Yeah, welcome.
okay.
All right, any further discussion? Do we have a motion?
I pass a motion to approve resolution 18-07-31 to dispose of inoperable, obsolete, and unusable appliances as scraps if they are truly inoperable.
All right, a motion was made by Commissioner Bailey.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Woods, all in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries. All right. We did make a line item agenda change where board action for nomination and vote on vice president, vice chairperson would take place after executive session. So at this time, we're going to go on to the administrative report from the executive director, Ms. Hollis.
Sure. Administrative report. Kind of got sidetracked on my own report. I basically just want to give a few updates because there is a lot that has occurred
I think it's
in
section
the
6.
last 30 days. And some of it I want to reserve for executive session, but I think most importantly, I would want to deal with the problems that was there when I first started. We had audit exceptions that needed to be addressed. One was civil service issue as it relates to the status of staff. Most importantly, the deficit of the agency, and the other was the physical condition of the agency. As it relates to the budget deficit, after working with our HUD liaison, I have learned that our deficit is administrative only, and it's a direct result of contract employees. It was misunderstood, I think, that in order to address the audit exception, that we were to take the contract employees and make them silver service, and that is not the case. We needed to eliminate the contract employees. And, the reason being is that if we are only getting a percentage of the allocation to be used for administrative costs, i.e. if we got $1 and 2% of that dollar can go to administrative costs, but we have staff that we're hiring and it requires 10% to pay that staff, we literally are creating our deficit every time we do a payroll. As of to date, we've eliminated that. We're no longer dealing with contract employees. It does create a void within the organization. However, we already had an issue with capacity building, which is what we're focusing on now, capacity building, which includes our maintenance department and administrative department. The other issue with civil service, we've resolved that. We had individuals that are civil service employees or non-classified that were being paid on a pay scale that did not meet the standards of civil service, and we've resolved that. It was as simple as getting civil service to give us a report, and some of that is because in-house, we were doing our own payroll, which we have eliminated as well. And the flip side of that is that in-house, we don't have accounting. So to monitor it as an executive director is almost impossible, even to make the administrative decision or an executive decision that relates to finances. So we're working on that. The final issue is the physical condition of our units. Some of it is just outdated. There's nothing that we can do or say about how we're gonna repair it. It has to be replaced, i.e. windows, doors. We have to replace that. The other issue as it relates to the physical condition, it's workmanship. Workmanship is an issue, and we are addressing that. So basically, I think that's about it. We can save the rest. Well, and I also want to say that our administrative cost is going from $412,000 to $273,000, just by making the civil service adjustments and eliminating the contract employees.
And I will say that was initiated in the meeting that Ms. Hollis and myself had with HUD. Russell was actually there at that meeting as well. And then you had a follow-up meeting with Byron at HUD,
With Byron and Cynthia, correct.
so.
And finally, in reviewing what I do have access to as it relates to our financials, I went and reviewed some of the contracts that we have. We have contracts that we've just allowed to roll over without even addressing whether or not we can find better contracts. Our phone service, we were paying $300, and to Cox Cable, we were paying $350 a month for phone service. We've swapped. We are now with AT&T. $120 is what we're paying now. Expose another problem. Our communication, our emails were directly related to Cox. We don't have emails. We did not. That's been resolved. They're related back to our server. So that's why you guys are seeing the change on the exchange, the tag on our emails. Little small things like that. We had contracts with Sanitize. Rather than have them wash and press our uniforms, we bought them and eliminated that contract. So there's little tweaking, and we're trying to save every dollar that we can, really.
Well, I appreciate those changes very, very much. And it just shows an individual who wants to make changes and goes in there and look for the ways. And we're looking at 30 days, and I'm hearing you saying we're saving money already. So I like hearing that.
Final, professional services, we are out of contract with our fee accountant. So we have to come up with a scenario. I'm gonna work directly with Department of Housing and Urban Development for technical assistance to find out how we address July. But we're going to do a notice and start soliciting bids for a fee accountant, as well as the professional service of our legal staff, our legal services. We're going to do a notice to start soliciting bids for legal. And based on a decision of the board, I would like to start a notice to start soliciting bids for construction management.
And I will say, Russell, obviously, you know, you're our current fee accountant, and as we solicit bids, you know,
Right.
This is just the
Fair.
process we have to do, so you
Understand.
can certainly, submit.
And I also want to say, I don't know how I left this out, we're talking about money. We've had, HUD has had in reserve for us, it's not reserve, I need to be careful with my terminology. But HUD has been holding for us $380,000, of which they are now willing to allow us to access for the, agency to move forward in the vision that we're now talking about.
What do we do to cause them to have a change of mind?
We went, sat down and met with them, and we listened to what they had to say, and we're following their instructions, because they're our friend.
It was a productive meeting.
You know, and I asked that question on purpose. Again, we're talking about 30 days now that you've been here, and just hearing what you're saying just demonstrates that an individual can go out and listen as you do and seek and find out things and make changes.
Well, I've been working with the Department of Housing and Urban Development for over 25 years. I've always viewed them, I mean, you can't fight them because of their job. They're our contract administrators, and they're there to literally help support us. So when they're communicating with us, they're not going to tell us how to run the agency. That's what this commission is for. But they will give us technical assistance to help us stay on track and get on track. And that's what's happening. We will follow their instructions.
And the funds that you're saying they're looking forward to release towards, what can we use those for?
Updating the construction manager and
Okay,
getting
that's
our
what I'm trying to
units.
figure. Can we have a free
And getting
window?
our units is not free. All dollars allocated has regulations and
I mean,
eligibility activities, but
far
we
as
can
using
start
it, we
working
can
on
do
our
things.
units.
Okay,
Yes.
and that's what I was looking for the answer.
We can
What
start
can we
working on
what
our
can we use
units.
the money
Does that
for?
mean that we're gonna start seeing our cap fund in part of this report, like the money that we're getting?
Yeah,
They
HUD
used to be
actually,
part of it. They used to have a printout.
HUD has an internal system. There is an infrastructure. It's a big organization. They run housing authorities across the country. We just need to participate in that process.
Mhm.
And that's what we're going to start doing. And there are modules that they have where we could print any report that you guys want to see. But we have to have our accounting in-house. When I say accounting in-house, I'm not an accountant. That means I'm not going to actually do bookkeeping, but it needs to be in-house. So if you need to see a current, a current budget statement, then I'll be able to press a button and provide that. But the fee accountant is definitely going to be one that's doing the accounting. But I'm not going to be calling him anymore to give me information. He's going to be coming to me to get the information, because I'm ultimately
That's
But there will be
exactly my
somebody.
The fee account
the
still
fee
processes.
accountant.
Okay.
And
That's what I wanna
annually,
make sure.
no, annually we have to hire an independent certified accountant to come and
Auditor.
do an audit on what we do. So there are checks and balances. Right now, we don't have checks and balances.
But
So how often
essentially,
that audit happens?
Annually.
every year.
So 1 year, so whole year goes around and then somebody, wait, that's not I know that audit happens. That audit happens. I'm talking about when you do the accounting and there's somebody else, so the accounting is done in-house, and then for that month, the fee account will also be able to look at it and be able
He's
to
going to
check
do
it.
it.
But that'll happen every month. Somebody will be
Yeah.
there to look at it.
He's going to
Okay.
do it. I'll be able to see it. Right now, I can't see it.
My only
Right.
concern was just making sure that was just an independent eye from our agency that's able to look at the numbers.
There will be.
Yes.
That's
So,
all I was asking
yeah,
earlier.
so
Yes.
what we're gonna
Did you see the
accomplish.
problem that arises if just the agency saw all the
No,
accounting?
and she's not eliminating the fee
No.
accountant. The fee accountant is gonna operate truly as a fee accountant. He's gonna do the accounting. But right as it stands right now, the only way that we get reports, the only way that we get information is that we have to call the fee accountant to get the information. We literally have QuickBooks or some other accounting, I think we have several different accounting
Well,
processes
several.
in the computer system, but they're essentially being used as a checkbook, where we just
To
know
print checks.
what we're printing as a check. But we don't see where the sources of income are coming in. We don't have it allocated to different programs. And HUD says, y'all should have this in-house. And so when we're talking about having accounting available in-house, we're literally taking the instruction from our meeting with HUD on how to set this up. So,
And just as I'm thinking, and not to imply anything here, because I love that you guys are going places and finding information for us, but could you disseminate some of what you learn or vision or whatever to us, however?
You want to talk about that now or in executive session?
I'm wide open to public, so it depends, the chair's call.
Transparency is
on
my
that
friend. Basically, as I earlier stated, we do not have any internal bookkeeping. We have none. I've seen checks bounce because I don't have access to what's in the bank unless I call the bank every morning. You know, and that just should not be. That's not how you run a business.
Yes, ma'am.
The internally, the staff that we have were hired out of their skill set, which means that we don't have the internal capacity to even tap into the infrastructure that's HUD has in place to help us, which I think led to some of the non-compliance. It is almost as if we are on an island by ourselves and not intact with anything else. I think that our reports, our financial, and also our physical inspection reports verify, quantify everything I just said. When I first took the job, you know, in my mind, it was like, okay, let me go see what's happening and let's improve on it. But when I got there was nothing to improve on. There was nothing there. So with that being said, I think that the move with Silver Service, the Silver Service scenario is a help. It made some adjustments that again exposed problems that I don't much think we even much understood at the time.
Mhm.
The Silver Service process. We're communicating with Silver Service. Silver Service is addressing as we communicate with them. The check and balances as it relates to how we are interacting with Silver Service does not exist. The audit exception pointed out that we had Silver Service employees classified in one area and being paid in another. And we still have that going on. We had an unclassified employee who should be classified. And we were paying almost 20 some odd $1,000 more than we were supposed to be. That's, you know, that's it.
Mm.
Those are the type of things that I've found. As it relates to the physical in the units, we have to do better. We have to do better. In my report, I forgot to mention that Fox 8, on my very first day, submitted a public request wanting 10 years of inspection reports, of which we had to comply with.
Using your analogy of being on an island, I hope we have at this point not just have a ship to get us back and forth, but a good constructed bridge that brings us where we need to be. I like what I'm hearing from you. I like the way you're digging in. We've been wanting this information for a while, and I just look forward to working closer with you, and we get this agency where it should be.
I can say we are surrounded by support. We just weren't using
Yeah.
it. We've already made communication with Louisiana Housing Corporation, i.e. referral from HUD, to talk about bringing additional resources. There are other monies that we can access. Did not, you know, don't want to move too fast. But there is the Louisiana Housing Tax Credit, something that you guys asked me about, and I shared that I was familiar with the process. I also stated that it's a competitive process. After meeting with HUD and also talking to Mr. Lewis Russell, who's coming out to do an inspection on our site, there is a 4% reserve that is non-competitive. However, we have to get our infrastructure in place to participate in it because it's not going to stay there and wait for us.
Mhm. Okay.
All right, all that being said, what I'd like to do at this time is ask for a motion to move into executive session, including, as previously advertised, including an executive session, the executive director and the fee accountant. Do we have a motion from
Pass
the
a
board?
motion that we enter an executive session.
Motion made by Commissioner Bailey, second by Commissioner Belloc. All in favor?
Aye.
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 That motion carries. All right, the time is now 7:19. We'll be moving into executive session. All right, welcome back. Do we have a motion from the board?
I'd like to pass a motion that we enter back into our regular session.
I have a motion made by Commissioner Bailey,
Second.
second by Commissioner Woods. All in favor?
Aye.
Right, that motion carries. Time is now 8:03. We're now back in regular session. For the Housing Authority, regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners. At this time, we'll be taking board action for, nomination and vote on the new vice chair. Do we have, a motion from the board?
Just say motion in the ground. Yeah. I'd like to pass a motion to,
Nominate.
nominate Commissioner Rodney Woods as, vice chair.
All right, a motion was made, by, Commissioner Bailey to nominate, Rodney Woods, vice chair. I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, do we want to take a vote on that as well? Or just, well, we nominated, so, Mr. Woods was nominated, so, now we'll take a motion to vote, all in favor of him becoming chair. Aye.
Aye.
All right, that motion carries. You're new the vice chair, so.
Hmm.
All right, any further discussion from the board at this time?
No, Mr. Chair, with that, no further discussion, I move that we adjourn.
All right, motion by Commissioner Woods to adjourn, second by Commissioner Bailey. All in favor?
Aye,
Aye. That motion carries.
thank you.
We are adjourned, 8:05.
Those days were the 18th.